adding 500 to 1,000 accounts in a single season is, you're like, whoa, dude.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Like, what's the likelihood that we put on these 1,000 accounts and you just can't service them?
If you don't have experience knocking doors and selling pest control.
Ben Riches posted in the Facebook group, we want to hire a sales team this next season or possibly recruit our own. What's the best way to find a sales team for hire? Or does anybody know of any? Option 1, you recruit your own team. Option number 2 is that you have a door-to-door marketing team.
Brother, that ain't gonna work.
95%. I've seen all the way up to 115%.
Did you say 115?
The 115.
So not only are you not making a freaking dime on any of those customers for what, a year and a half? You know, I don't mean to be a naysayer about this.
Welcome to the Bug Bux Podcast, a podcast designed to help you become a bug money millionaire. Today's episode is brought to you by Bug Bux Plus, the #1 training and education platform designed to help you build and scale your pest control company. I'm your host, Eric Bassett, and of course, across the way from me at the Bug Bux Plus studio in Vancouver, Washington, my co-host, Jay Claus. What's up, dude?
From over the river and through the woods. What's up, Eric? What's up, my Bug Buxers?
Dude, it's kind of crazy. I mean, this episode is probably going to drop mid-December-ish. And I've decided, well, we are going to my in-laws' house for Christmas. In fact, we've gone to my in-laws' house for Christmas for the past, 3 Christmases?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Not?
Yep. Standard is you come up Thanksgiving with us and then Christmas with Brinley's family. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm realizing that, I'm actually likely not going to have either Thanksgiving or Christmas in my house, rarely ever. And what's great about that is that I have to do limited amount of cooking and a limited amount of hosting. And I'm actually totally cool with that. I'm totally happy with it.
Well, what holidays do you have at your house? Because 4th of July, you're up here.
There's another one. Yeah, so 4th of July, I don't do it.
Halloween, what happens Halloween? Are you guys there?
Yeah, that's fine. But usually we go to someone else's Halloween party. So we're not hosting that. And then St. Patrick's Day is whatever. Do we really count that?
Is that really? I'm Dutch. I don't know. Yeah, I'm Dutch and I don't drink, so St. Patty's Day is not really
have a poll in the Bug Bux group, is this really a holiday?
And everything I wear has green on it, so it's like I kind of get a pass.
We should, you know what? We should get a pass for both Bug Bux and Natura. Our main color is green.
Yep.
Just wear it all the time.
It's all green.
Don't pinch me.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And that's funny because you guys will be in Utah for Christmas, but your parents are coming up to our place for Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're switchity swapping.
Yeah. The kids voted. Do we want Granddaddy and Papa to come up for Christmas or no? And it was a resounding yes. So
love it, dude. Well, it's kind of great because if I'm going to head down to my in-laws, then it's actually kind of cool that my parents are heading up to your house.
Right.
So
yeah,
there we go.
In-laws. It's the in-laws.
What's funny is sometimes I forget that people might listen to this podcast and not realize that you're my brother-in-law. So they're probably listening and they're like, what are they talking about?
Well, see, at Pest World, we got, are you guys brothers? Yeah. And at least one person asked if you were my son, which I don't know how I feel about that,
That was great, honestly.
I'm 10 years older than him, but...
That was 10 out of 10. I can't tell if that makes... I'm going to take that as them thinking I'm younger than I am. That's how I'm going to take that. Not that you're older than me.
That's good for you, bad for me.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
How old do you think I am?
If they think that I'm my normal age, then they must think that you're old. But if they think that I'm younger than I am, then they probably think that you're your normal age. So we're good.
That's true. Maybe they think you're 24 and not 34. Okay, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So today we do have an awesome guest. Before we dive in, just want to remind everybody listening, the best way to receive new episodes is by subscribing to our show on your preferred podcast platform like Apple, YouTube, Audible, or Spotify. If you love the show, please leave us a rating and a review. Make sure to check out our Facebook group, Bug Bux Plus. That is BUGBUX Plus. We have the owners only group that has over 4,700 other pest control owners waiting to connect with you and share their thoughts. It's also the best way for Pest Pros. We also have our Pest Pros group for non-owner team members designed to help them develop in their roles. Joining the groups is the best way to connect with us, share your feedback on our show, and have your questions highlighted and discussed here on the podcast. So make sure you find us on Facebook and join one of those groups. Alrighty, dude. So speaking of the Facebook group, and I'm gonna give some credit here. We actually have this question a lot, but Ben Riches posted in the Facebook group, and he said, "Hey, we want to hire a sales team this next season, or possibly recruit our own. What's the best way to find a sales team for hire, or does anybody know of any?" And then he kind of goes on to talk about some of his goals. So, before we hit the record button, we were talking about the two options that people have for door-to-door sales, if you're going to get into it. Option one, you recruit your own team, right? You build your own team, you have your own door-to-door program internally, and you manage that. Option number two is that you have a door-to-door marketing team come in and sell those accounts for you, right? Completely separate entity and not actually internal at all, right? So there's obviously some pros and cons of this, and we've talked about door-to-door in the past, but I think we're going to do a specific episode where we dive into the nitty-gritty of both of these things, go over some of the logistics, pros and cons of doing your own internal team, and then definitely the logistics and maybe pros and cons of doing a door-to-door marketing team, right?
Yeah. What's cool is that, like you said, I mean, we have talked about this topic lots of times on the podcast. And probably the reason why we keep addressing it is because, it seems like every other day when I jump on the Bug Bux Facebook group, somebody's asking a question about door teams, and it's pertinent because growing your pest control company, people are looking at every option they can get, right? And doing door teams it's like it's maybe like a rite of passage or something. I don't know. Like, so many people have done it, and so they've got lots of questions, and they've seen other companies grow by door to door. So it's a very natural question, even if you're only curious about it. It's something that's very, very natural to wonder about.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think that the appetite that people have for growth changes over time. So, in the beginning, when you're kind of a solo operator and you're building and scaling, the operations can be pretty heavy, a little overwhelming at times. And the thought of like adding 500 to 1,000 accounts in a single season you're like, whoa, dude, I don't know how to even handle that idea. And as
it's like surfing a tsunami.
Exactly, right? And as you get bigger and bigger, you start to see your growth kind of level off. Like in the first few years, you could double or triple the size of your company every single year, and it's awesome. But you get to a certain number, and then you start to level off a little bit, and you're like, dude, it'd be great if I could increase my customer base by 25 to 50% even, but how do I do that at this point? I'm not hitting it with digital marketing. What other ways can I have a surplus of accounts coming in and supplement my growth? And then door to door, right?
Right. Yep.
So, which is funny because a lot of other guys start off with door to door. Like, that's from the very beginning. That's the only thing they know. That's how Natura started. So, there's a little bit to unpack there, but I love what you said. Whether you're using it or not, the option to use door to door is something that I think everybody should be familiar with. Know the details, the common terms, the common pitfalls, the pros and cons, all the fun stuff. So let's start with going the direction of hiring your own internal door-to-door team. Where would you start?
That is the golden question, right? Okay, so let's just look at it realistically. So you have two options. You can either go out and recruit. You can recruit out of your market, like go to colleges and recruit or whatever, or you can recruit locally out of your own community. So there's pros and cons to both. Part of the I guess it's a sweet and sour, right? The sweet and sour of recruiting from out of town, like from colleges, and then bring them into your market, is that number one, on the positive side, it's a big commitment for the sales rep. It's a big step. They're committed to it. They're driving away from home, and they've got nothing else to do but sell. And so that's on the positive side of that. On the negative side, the sour side of recruiting out of market guys is that you have to make a lot of preparations before they show up for the summer. If you're doing a marketing deal and you're in charge of finding housing and all that stuff, that lays on the cost of that rests on your shoulders. You're projecting how many technicians and office staff and vehicles and equipment you're needing. Like Eric said, if you go from 500 customers to 1,500 customers in your first summer, that logistically, there's a lot to unpack there. And so there's that side of it. And then recruiting locally, there are drawbacks to recruiting locally. First of all, you're drawing from a smaller pool of talent, for one thing. Secondly, it's really easy for your local guy to say, "Oh, actually, you know what? My family's going up to the lake for a couple of days, so I'm not gonna go out and knock," which puts you in a bad spot, because whether you're recruiting out of town or locally, you still have to prepare in advance for the load that you're going to pick up during the summer. So you still have your truck payments, you still have the additional technician, office, equipment, yada, yada, yada. So, when we start talking about door-to-door sales, Eric and I have so much experience in this over the years. Eric sold door-to-door for companies before he joined the company. I sold pest control door-to-door for like 8 or 9 years for, I think, 4 different companies before we started. So we've seen the industry change over the years. And gosh, we could do several episodes on this topic, on door-to-door.
Yes.
And really not even scrape the bottom of the barrel on it.
Yeah. Well, and just like you said, the pros and cons, it starts off with the recruiting process, right? So, if you go to another market, like some college market outside of your normal market, the pro is, like you said, you bring them in from outside and they don't have no distractions here, which is cool. But the con is that since you don't live in that market where you're recruiting, the odds that they're going to get recruited away by some other company that does have a local presence, is highly likely, right? So, you have the balancing act there. And then if you record from outside,
it's so common to get your guys poached too, right?
So common.
Getting your guys poached, that's the freaking worst. You spend all this time. It's like dating. It's like you're dating the sales guys, right? You're taking them out to dinner. You're wooing and wowing them, and then some handsome jock steps in and steals your girl away.
Yeah,
by
it's
offering 2% more in commission or something stupid,
What's funny is it's almost like if you went to a dating pool where they had no idea what it was like to date a guy at all, and you're like, "Hey, yeah, I'm going to take you to a dinner and a movie, and I'm going to take you on a walk and show you a really good time, and be a total gentleman." They're like, "This is awesome. I had no idea this was even possible. This is the best thing in the world." And then you leave for 2 weeks, and you come back and you're like, "Hey, I'd love to take you on another date." And they're like, "Well, actually, while you were gone, I met this other guy, and he did all the same stuff that you did, but he took me to a slightly nicer restaurant, and he took me to a movie that I liked just a little bit more. And so I think I'm going to commit to him for unlimited number of dates this next summer."
And he drives a Beamer.
Yeah, and you're like, "Well, I could do those things," and they're like, "Nah, it's okay, no problem." Okay, so just know that if you are recruiting out of your market, one of the pitfalls is that you can get people snagged, right? Like you'll get your door-to-door guys kiped by other door-to-door companies. A pitfall of recruiting in your own back door, like you were saying, is that guys get distracted. And me and Jake have both sold for companies where we moved away to sell, and we've also sold for companies where we sold in our home markets, not for Natura. This is completely separate from that. And for us, we saw both sides of it. I think you and I were probably pretty dedicated, a lot less distracted, but there were plenty of dudes on the team who just couldn't hack it. And instead of them being in a market that they were completely foreign to, where they don't have another option, right? Like if you pull them from an outside market and they have a bad day, dude, they don't have any friends there. They don't have any family there. They don't have any obligations. They don't have any hobbies, The only thing they can really do is live and breathe sales and succeed, or have a tough day and then try again the next day. If you have a guy in your home market, even if he has a good day, he still has all those same distractions because that's where he lives. Pro of recruiting in your own market is that because they live there, you typically don't pay for housing because they already live there. If you pull a guy from outside your market and bring them in, then typically you pay for housing, right? So that's another expense you just have to...
Yeah, depending on the marketing deal that they've got.
And you're either, when we talk marketing deals and numbers, what Jake's referring to is the commission percentage that you're planning on paying them on their sales. And hopefully, if you pull a guy in or you pull a team in from outside your market, you're able to negotiate a commission percentage where they are paying for their own housing. Here's a pro tip. In any case, if you can avoid being on the hook for that housing, do it. like we've run into lots of scenarios where we provide housing for those guys because that's typical. And then if those guys go home, yeah, you can charge them for rent and you can try to pull it out of their back end. But if they don't have any sales, I mean, yeah, you can take the guy to court for $2,000 or whatever the amount is, but you're not seeing that money, dude.
No. Well, and the risk is just so big too, because those apartments are in your name. So if you have guys that burn a hole in the carpet, or that shatter the sliding glass patio door with a blow dart, or
it's a true story, by the way.
Yeah, right. Or set the kitchen on fire, or whatever. I mean, you name it. That lands on your shoulders. So you're assuming a massive amount of risk by bringing sales guys in. The whole thing is risky, and I don't mean to be a naysayer about this, because we had a lot of success growing our company through a door program. That was super helpful. In fact, that's all we knew, right? And we had networks, and that's how we started. But yeah, you bring a team in from outside, and if they're seasoned reps, if they've sold before, you kind of know what you're getting, right? Yeah, this guy sold 150 accounts for another company last year. This guy sold 300 accounts for another company last year. You have an idea of how they're going to perform. If you're recruiting first-year reps, which is what that's going to make up a large portion of your team. If you're going out and recruiting yourself, you have no idea. And sometimes you can recruit a dude. I remember there was this dude named Dallin. When Eric and I worked at Gemtech, way back in the day, like 12, however long, that was a long time ago. 16 years ago now. That was 2008.
Wow.
Was that 16 years ago?
Something like that. We'll say around 15 years ago. Put it that way.
Yeah. Jack was born in 2007. Yep. Right now he's 17. Okay, yeah. So there's this dude Dallin, and I don't know if you remember Dallin. I don't know if he was there.
I remember Dallin.
You remember Dallin?
Yeah.
So Dallin comes in, and we're all like, wow, this guy is sharp. Like, he's handsome, he's quick-witted, he's just real personable. And we thought, dude, this guy's going to kill it. He's going to just knock us all out of the park. The dude couldn't sell an account to save his life. In fact, the owners of the company, I've only heard them say this about like one or two other reps. They said that he was a futile salesman. Those are the words they use, futile. So it's a crapshoot, man. You have no idea with first-year guys. Then on the other hand, there was this kid named Jake Hill. And he was one of my best friend's little brothers growing up, and the kid he didn't wear a belt. I mean, that just goes to show right off the bat, right? I don't know that he ever washed his clothes. He wasn't eloquent. He couldn't really talk, and he was goofy. And that kid would go out and he worked for that company for 2 years. And he'd sell between 150 and 200 accounts by the grace of God. So, you never know what these first year reps are going to be like. It's a huge gamble.
We're going to take a quick moment to highlight one of the premier sponsors of the Bug Bux Plus platform. Are you running a pest control business and worried about missing sales opportunities? Let's talk about Same-Day AI, the game-changing virtual sales agent designed specifically for the pest control industry. This innovative tool uses advanced artificial intelligence to ensure no potential customer slips through the cracks. What's really impressive about same-day AI is how it integrates seamlessly with field routes and other top CRMs. It doesn't just quote, it schedules new customers directly onto your routes, optimizing your workload without missing a beat. I've seen it in action, and it is truly a sight to behold. The efficiency is incredible. Bookings go up and stress goes down. For any pest control business looking to enhance their sales strategy and boost customer engagement, same-day AI is your answer. Transform your approach and elevate your service with the efficiency that only AI can provide. Trust me, you'll see the difference. Visit GoSameDay.com to learn more and start revolutionizing your business today.
Oh yeah, well, and we could do, like you said, a whole entire episode on how to select the right guy, train the right guy, get him to operate well. And outside of that, there's always going to be outliers, guys that you train well and just can never sell at all, and guys that, despite never really seeming like they're going to absorb any training, go out and defy all odds and sell really well. And it's like, I don't know how you're doing this, but just keep doing it, dude. It's fine. And if we rewind a little bit, if we're talking about hiring your own team, right? You can either become the leader of this team, which I will say that if you're thinking to yourself, okay, perfect. All I got to do is just go out and recruit 10 reps of my own, and then I'll run correlation and I'll run the sales team and we'll have a great year. That's a cool thought. Likelihood of that happening, very rare. Because finding 10 qualified people in your market, very, very slim. Finding 10 people in an outside market of yours, not so slim, but getting them all to come to you is slim. So if you recruited 25 and 15 to 10 show up, that's more like it, right? But just you recruiting 25 guys, slim. So I say that to say this. Odds are, if you're building your own team, you're probably going to go find 4 or 5 dudes. That would be a very solid initial recruiting season for you if you're going to be the guy who builds the team, right? And then typically, you're going to be the one that's selling and knocking and training with them on the doors. And so you're actually in the mix selling with them. And what you're hoping is that one of those guys shows a really big propensity to being able to knock and be successful. And he's sharp and he's ready to go, and he wants to maybe take on some, managerial duties, and he wants to help train the guys, and he has influence on the team. And so what you're doing is kind of grooming him to become your sales leader by the end of that season and the following year. And most likely, in the final event of the year, you have some after season party and you say, hey, everybody, just want to announce John is going to be our director of sales next year. He's going to be doing the recruiting. He's going to help you guys kill it with your recruiting goals and your sales goals. And then the key is that you want to turn every single one of those door-to-door guys that you just had into a recruiter, right? So they go from selling pest control on the doors to selling pest control to their buddies, to the people they go to school with, to pretty much anybody who listens, right? And then John, this director of sales, is the kind of the guy who goes in and helps cultivate those, teaching them how, maintaining the relationships. And then you're relying on him to be the in-person, most likely connection in some of those other markets so that you don't have to. Not that you won't still do it, but that you won't necessarily have to. So that whole process, that's how you actually get a sales leader, usually. The other way, which I'll just highlight here, and it's very, very uncommon, is that you go out and find one who already is a sales leader who's working for another company, right? And you say, hey, man, I want to have a door team. And he says, that's great. I'm a recruiter. I've done this for a long time. And then you bring him into your company and you do it that way. Anytime that you are the one that doesn't develop the leader and you are paying for the leader to come in, you will pay a premium. That's a typical thing you just have to remember through this whole conversation is anything that you don't create yourself, that you farm out, you will pay a premium price on all of that.
Yeah, totally. And, I'll say this too. If you don't have door experience, if you don't have experience knocking doors and selling pest control, bringing in a team that you are planning on being the team leader yourself for, I want to say this like cautiously, but that's a risky move, because if you don't have experience doing something, it's going to be hard to train other people to do something that you don't know how to do also. So, you know, if you are planning on being the leader of your sales team, if you're planning on being the recruiter, the leader of your sales team, my suggestion is take a summer all on your own and go out and sell your service on your own. Get a sales mentor, join a sales, door-to-door sales program or something. Learn how to do it yourself. That way, when you're teaching your guys how to do it, you have some background. Now, that's the one thing. Now, the second thing about that, if you're planning on being the sales rep or the sales leader or you're going to knock doors on your own, and you're the guy that owns the company and you're the guy that's running the company, brother, that ain't going to work. So you'll have to find someone that you trust that can be your service manager. He can manage the hiring and the firing and the quality of service for your customers and all of that, because you will not be able to do both successfully, right? We have this saying that an eagle starves chasing two rabbits, right? You can't do both. So that's on the one hand. Like Eric said, on the other hand, if you're going to hire somebody to be the team leader who already has a team, that's going to cost an arm and a leg. And if you don't have financial backing, you'll probably end up going into debt, having to take out loans to pay for that. And then also, if you get too upside down, you can lose your company. So, I mean, just those are some of the pitfalls. And, you know, I'm not saying that to scare anybody, but that's just the reality of the business. If you're paying a marketing company, and some of the marketing companies that are good, they charge a lot of money. I'm talking like 90%. Mm-hmm. I've even seen 100%. So they charge 100%. Yep. So not only are you not making a freaking dime on any of those customers for what, a year and a half, give or take, yeah. Right? So you're not realizing any revenue from those customers. On top of that, you have the attrition of the customers that are canceling, and you've already paid in advance, partway at least, for those customers. And then on top of that, unless you have financial backing, if you put yourself in that kind of situation where at the end of the year you don't have the money to pay out of your own business, you don't have the money to pay for those accounts, you're taking out a loan against the business or mortgaging your house or freaking whatever. Like, you have to pay them, right? So then you take out a loan to pay off the commissions, but now you got a loan that's generating interest. So, I mean, and you're not going to realize the value of the accounts for a year and a half-ish. So these are just the things these are the common pitfalls, right? I mean, these are the things that before you want to launch into the world of recruiting or having a sales team, you got to pencil this stuff out. And you got to make sure that it makes sense, and you have to make sure that you have the resources to make that happen, both on the sales side and on the financial business side.
100%. And we're going to transition over into some of the more specific details on the door-to-door marketing side. And before we do, just want to highlight two other things. So when you are paying door-to-door reps, right, you've got two different versions of this, right? Me and Jake started door-to-door in the back-end commission pay scale type, okay? So basically what you have here is some type of retroactive pay scale. So it increases in commission percentage when you hit certain milestones. And that new percentage is retroactive. So it pays all of your accounts that percentage, which is pretty cool. But usually what happens is that the sales guy will make a certain flat rate per account that gets serviced, say $50, $100, whatever it is, doesn't matter. And then at a certain date later on in the future, probably like October 31st, November 1st, something like that, you have a chargeback date where basically all the accounts that he has sold, some of those are going to cancel. Everything after that date are accounts that are his to keep, right? If they cancel past that date, it's not his problem, it's the company's problem, okay? And then the company will basically pay him his back-end check somewhere between that cutoff date and the end of the year, which is all of the remaining commissions that he is owed in one big chunk. Okay, so you get a little bit up front.
It's called your back end.
Yep.
That's when you hear that term in the recruiting door world. That's the back end.
That's the back end. So as we kind of transition over to this door-to-door marketing side, there are a lot of details that are going to seem kind of similar to that, but it's in a little bit of a different format. So I'm going to try to spell this out as best as I can. And I started looking mostly into some of these details. At Natura, we've used door-to-door marketing teams before. Since using them, I've played matchmaker between a couple of pest control companies and door-to-door marketing teams over the past couple of seasons. And these are the questions that always come up. So I'm going to kind of do these in order. The first thing that I usually ask a pest control company is, how many accounts do you want? Right? So if someone says, hey, I want to do a door-to-door marketing team, I'll ask, how many accounts do you want? Because all the door-to-door marketing teams, that's exactly what they want to know. They have different calibers of guys. This is where your
penciling comes in, right?
Yes. So start writing this stuff down.
Pencil this out, right?
So ask yourself, how many accounts do I want? Okay. The next question you have to ask yourself, and maybe even before, write out what your current contract value is, or what the contract value that you want these guys to sell at. Okay. Because if we are selling, for example, if we wanted to do 1,000 accounts, I want to have a marketing team come in and sell that many accounts, which is for marketing teams, just so you guys know, on the low end. But if I want to do 1,000 accounts and I have a contract value that's say 650, okay, that's going to cost me, that's $650,000 worth of sales revenue. All right. So if I know that the going rate for marketing companies is somewhere in the 90s, and Jake said it, like 90% plus, what I usually see is anywhere from 95%.
For a high performing team.
Yep. 95%. I've seen all the way up to 115%. No joke. So 115. So let's just assume 95%. Okay. So 600.
Did you say 115?
115. I did. Believe it or not, dude.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's take that 650,000 worth of sales revenue from the 1,000 accounts. Okay. And let's multiply that by 95%. That means it's going to cost you $617,500. All right. So let's just imagine for a second that you have that kind of money and you're like, hey, I want 1,000 accounts. And the door-to-door marketing company is going to say, perfect. Tell me about your company. Tell me about your financial backing. Tell me about how many technicians you have. Tell me about, your customer service team. Because that sales company wants to make sure that you're a good match. They want to know, if we come and sell for you, are you going to be able to service the accounts we sell? Like, what's the likelihood that we put on these 1,000 accounts and you just can't service them, which means you can't pay us, which means we're out of luck, right? So they're going to start asking those questions, and you have to be able to have answers prepared for them, right? Like, hey, I'm going to have the trucks. I've got this financial backing. I've got these technicians squared away. This is my customer service staff. This is their policies on retention. And then you can make sure you can kind of put their minds at ease, right? From then on, the door-to-door company is going to ask you, perfect, this is the deposit that we require to come out and sell for you. And usually a deposit is an amount that covers some of their recruiting at the tail end of the year. It covers some of the last events they're going to do. It covers their travel expenses, and it covers getting them housing, right? That's the other thing to put in mind, that this 95% to 115%, you're not paying for anything. Like, you don't pay for housing. You don't pay for incentives.
They're covering the incentives. They're covering the end of the year cruise. They're covering all
right.
That
So
stuff. It's plug and play. You're just grabbing this marketing company, plugging them in.
Yeah, and maybe you give them uniforms and hats. Sure, like shirts and hats, maybe. So kind of the next step is, hey, let's figure out what this deposit is, and maybe it's whatever, $25,000 to $50,000, right? You pay them the deposit, and they say, perfect, we're going to show up on this date. Be ready for us. They show up and they start working for you. You're still going to have a set amount per sale that you have to pay per guy, right? So maybe it's $100 a rep per sale, or $200, or who knows what it is. You are, instead of paying those reps individually, you're typically just cutting one check to the marketing company, and then that marketing company covers payroll, right? Again, it's plug and play. You don't have to do anything extra here. So you do the math on the accounts, you cut a check for the marketing team, and then you continue like that throughout the summer. Depending on how many accounts and what the percentage is, they might also require monthly like deposits to get you closer to that final amount that you're going to owe, because just paying a guy $100 or $200 per serviced account, it's not going to get you super close to that $617,000 that you're going to owe, right? So you might start paying these monthly deposits, okay? And you're going to have to negotiate and agree on what that amount is, whatever works for you. And then you kind of go through the year, and those guys are selling, and then you're going to have to have a conversation about what you consider a commissionable sale is, right? So obviously it's usually an account that gets sold and serviced and paid for, right? The customer pays their bill, their initial service most importantly, but also isn't past due by X number of payments, right? Because by the cutoff date or by the chargeback date, which again is somewhere usually in the fall, we'll say November 1st, by that chargeback date, you're going to have to provide a cancellation report to that marketing company where you say, hey, here's all the accounts you sold. Here's all the accounts that were serviced. These are the ones that are paid for. These are the ones that haven't paid their bills. These are the ones that canceled, etc. And they're going to start asking questions about the accounts that canceled because those are worth a lot of money. So you have to be able to be ready to provide a report to those guys. And then obviously you're agreeing on both the cancellation reason, right? So let's say, for example, I know this is a lot of information, but let's just say, for example, you have an account that cancels and it says, canceled because customer doesn't like technician, right? And you're like, dude, I'm not, as the door-to-door marketing team, they're like, dude, I'm not taking that off my commissions. Like, that's your fault as the company. Well, if you ask the technician and the technician says, well, I asked the customer and the customer said, hey, the salesman said that you would de-web my crawl space. And the technician's like, yeah, I'm never doing that. Like, that's not part of our service. And the customer's like, fine, I'm going to cancel then. Well, whose fault is it now? So there are some elements of that you're going to have a conversation about, like what is commissionable. And then every now and again, you might have payment plans for the remaining balance. You guys can work out those details as well. But ultimately, like, those are some of the logistical things that you're going to have to work out before you even get things started, right? So it's knowing how many accounts you want, what those accounts are going to be worth, how much they're going to cost you overall, what the payment terms are, down payment, overall percentage. And there are some other little nitty-gritty things in there about, whether they sell enough or don't sell enough, and does the percentage change and other things, but those are the main things there. And we're super short on time, and I know that there are other elements to this, so maybe a good thing that we can say here is, if you're listening to this episode and you're thinking to yourself, wow, I'm super interested in this and I want to know more about it, drop a question in the Facebook group and let us know what your questions are, or you can reach out to me and Jake individually, that's fine too. And then just ask, because like Jake said, there's a lot of different ways that this thing can go depending on what your goals are. And there's just no way that we're going to cover all of it in one episode, but at least that gives you a couple of tips on both the door-to-door marketing team and an internal team.
Yeah, Eric and I, we're not just talking heads on a podcast. We've got experience with this kind of stuff. We don't have all the answers, but we have done this for a long time. So if you've got questions about, like running the team, like logistics, like in the field, in the training room, how to get your guys to sell solid, honest accounts and all that stuff, reach out to me. I would love to have any conversation with anybody. So
100%. And Jake is a great resource as far as protecting your brand when it comes to using outside sales teams or any sales team at all. So that would be awesome. For everybody listening, of course, we appreciate you guys taking the time. If you have a coworker, a manager, or an owner who could benefit from listening to this episode, the best way to say thank you to us is to share this episode with them. If you haven't joined the Facebook groups yet, go find the groups and join. It is Bug Bux Plus, lots of information and great connections there. If you have a topic you want discussed on the show, drop it in the group. As always, this episode is brought to you by Bug Bux Plus, the #1 training and education platform designed to help you build and scale your pest control company. Visit bugbuxplus.com to sign up and start building today.
And hit subscribe right now. Do it right now.
Thanks again for listening in, and until next time, keep building those pest control companies.
You're listening to the Bug Bux Podcast, hosted by Eric Bassett and Jake Claus.